Think we're good.
Okay, welcome everybody. Good morning to the February 29th meeting of the Baltimore County Delegation. I am Delegate Pat Young, Chair of the Baltimore County Delegation. Welcome back today. We have excited to welcome back former member as well as former Chair of the Baltimore County Delegation, County Executive Johnny Olszewski, to give us a brief on Baltimore County, what's going on and priorities for this legislative session. Mr. County Executive, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to all the members of the delegation. I'm grateful for the opportunity to join you this morning. Prior to the call, I was talking with a few of you about snow. Baltimore County is, as always, ready to respond to wherever and however much snow we are getting today. I want to just recognize first that we have Mia on our government affairs team driving the slide deck for today's presentation. And then Joel Beller, our acting director, is on as well to help with questions and follow up as appropriate. So have an update, Mr. Chairman, to provide. So Mia, if you want to just pull up the slide deck, and then I'd be happy to take questions following that. But just grateful that we have such an outstanding delegation here in Annapolis. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, I know firsthand what that means. So thanks to Speaker Jones, Chair Young, Vice Chair Brooks, Chair Klausmeyer, Vice Chair Sidnor, and all the members. I know that we had hoped to meet in person, but obviously still dealing with the throes of the pandemic with the Omicron variant, still very much challenging our healthcare systems. And these last 2 years have really presented us with uniquely difficult challenges. And I'm just grateful to have all of you as partners in these trying times. So thanks for all that you're doing, have done, and continue to do. You know, speaking, Mia, are we all set? Okay. Speaking of the variant, we, as you know, expanded our testing capacity so that we could support and protect our residents as best as possible. As Omicron surged, we set up a new mass vaccination site in White Marsh, and we are expanding our clinics in Randallstown, Towson, and Dundalk. To date, we have also distributed over 100,000 rapid test kits to our county residents, in addition to our support of the school system in distributing masks and helping to procure for them additional test kits. Meanwhile, our team has continued to do incredible work to vaccinate our residents. We were proud to have Governor Hogan describe our mass vaccination site at the state fairgrounds as the best in the state. We've considered it the gold standard nationally. In addition to that work, we were standing up community clinics and mobile units across the county to connect to our hard to reach communities. And we even worked with Uber to provide free rides to those clinics. And our fire department worked with the health department to vaccinate those residents who were homebound. So we have done and will continue to do all that it takes to ensure our residents are getting this life-saving vaccination. We've consistently seen the importance of getting vaccinated. Data from the Maryland Hospital Association tells us that as many as 84% of those who've been hospitalized during COVID are unvaccinated. And those numbers are even worse when you consider ventilations, ICU, and deaths. But to put things in perspective, that 84% is coming from just about the 20% of our population that is unvaccinated. And Mia, I think we're on the next slide. And the next slide. There you go. So while about 78% or 80% of our population is vaccinated and unlikely to be hospitalized, about 1 in 5 residents, and that's about 170,000 people, are still choosing to remain unvaccinated. They are absolutely the best tool that we have to keep our kids in the classroom and to keep our businesses running strong and to get back to normal. And again, I just think that this graphic really emphasizes how powerful and potent and important our vaccination efforts are, even in this most recent surge. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about that. In addition to vaccination, we're also planning for recovery. And as you are probably well aware, the county is set to receive about $160 million as part of our American Rescue Plan. And that's thanks in large part to President Biden and our congressional delegation. So we appreciate them passing that on top of the CARES Act that allowed us to respond so strongly to this pandemic. Back in November, we announced our proposal for getting some of these resources out into the community. Our plan focuses on investing unprecedented resources and especially focusing on those communities that were hit hardest by the pandemic. That includes equity districts across Baltimore County to promote investment in vulnerable communities, $16 million to create an affordable housing development fund, $4 million for small businesses on top of what we've already done, and county tourism, over $2 million to support childcare providers across Baltimore County, $2 million for behavioral supports, behavioral health supports, including expanding our crisis response and trauma-informed care training for county employees. The way I look at this is we really have an opportunity to build a stronger future. And this isn't about getting back to normal and where we were before, but really aspiring to where we should have always been. In addition to ARP, amid the crisis, we've also continued to make unbelievable progress. And we've proven that we can do transformative change here in Baltimore County. And I want you to know that I'm committed to ensuring that our county reaches its full potential. That's why this year we're continuing to make investments in our core government services to improve quality of life in our neighborhoods. Our residents depend on us to provide high quality essential services, and we are committed to delivering. One issue that's been out there is our water system. Obviously, maintaining our water infrastructure is one of our most essential responsibilities. I believe firmly that the policies that govern our water system are decades old and in need of reform. Last year, we released the results of a study of our water system, which we did in collaboration with and is currently owned by Baltimore City for decades. My administration remains open to exploring all productive paths forward, including the consideration of a regional water authority so that we can best support all of our residents. Ultimately, any changes may very well require the conversations of both the city and the House delegations. However, some of this is set in state law. Another area where we need action is on waste disposal. Trash during the pandemic going to our landfills increased from just over 300 tons a day to about over 1,400 tons per day. So after a public input period, we issued a new report on solid waste with recommendations on how to improve those services. Using some of our ARP money, we are planning to allocate a little over $6 million to explore innovative solutions to these waste challenges, including food composting. We know that food waste and food scraps is a big part of our waste challenge. We're also extremely proud that this year bulk trash has returned to Baltimore County. It's the first time it's been back since it was canceled back in 1992. In addition to trash, we're also continuing to revamp our code enforcement efforts. We are hiring more code enforcement inspectors. We're launching a new code enforcement dashboard, and we're creating a new fund to address derelict properties. These are the basic services that are the bread and butter of local government. We also know that vibrant communities require strong support for housing and community development. That's why we were proud to create the county's first ever DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development. This department is tasked with promoting home ownership, improving housing stability, stronger neighborhoods, and supporting attainable housing. I believe we have a moral and legal responsibility to expand access to attainable housing. And that's why we were proud to pass legislation to ban discrimination based on source of income. And it's why we're creating an affordable housing we have created an affordable housing work group to develop recommendations for high quality, affordable, and attainable housing. This is a critical next step towards stronger and more resilient communities, just like expanding transit is. And we are reimagining the way our residents get around the county. From day one, we've been committed to improving transit opportunities across Baltimore County. Last year, we launched the Patuxent Loop, which is the county's first ever fixed service route that will carry us into the future. Moving forward, we're already starting to lay the groundwork for possible expansions in communities like Catonsville, Owings Mills, White Marsh, Middle River, and Sparrows Point. Public safety. We believe that protecting public safety is another one of those fundamental responsibilities of local government. And after being named the county's first woman police chief, Chief Melissa Hyatt began implementing her new public safety plan. In partnership with us, it's one that targets crime prevention efforts in hotspots and conducts robust data analysis to improve policing strategies, among other tools and resources. Now, as you can tell, this plan is beginning to bring some results, and crime actually is continuing its trend downward. You can view all of our crime data online using BC Stat's dashboard. That's baltimorecounty.md.gov/BC Stat. So in collaboration with our open government reforms, you can go in and see all sorts of data relating to crime statistics. You should know that violent crime is down 16% countywide from last year, And that's been done thanks to the hard work of our law enforcement officers and the upstream investments we're making in education and other areas. Our county's clearance rate remains well above the national average, thanks to the consistent and dedicated efforts of the chief and the department. We do know, however, that Baltimore County did see an increase in homicides last year, and this is part of a nationwide trend. We will continue to do whatever is necessary to ensure Baltimore County remains a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. About half of all of Baltimore County's homicides are believed to have had a behavioral health or domestic related component. Now, these are tragedies that cannot be prevented with law enforcement alone. That's why last year we announced our expansion of the Baltimore County Mobile Crisis Team program. That's a program where trained police officers are paired with a licensed mental clinician to respond to calls for things like family conflicts, juvenile complaints, substance abuse, and other incidents that require access to social services. We also are creating a new 911 call center clinician program. This will actually have and utilize mental health clinicians in our 911 center to help screen those incoming calls to better connect residents with the most appropriate resources for them. We believe that by taking a holistic approach to public safety, by expanding access to mental health resources, and by making upstream investments, we can and we will continue reducing crime and keep our neighborhoods safe. Baltimore County is also taking big steps to keep our county clean and green. We believe that leaders at all levels have a responsibility to protect our environment for this generation and the next. And that starts with the basics. So back in 2020, we restarted the county's glass recycling program, which had been discontinued back in 2013. But we have to build on that work and set a bold vision for renewable energy, and that's exactly what we're doing. In our first year in office, we created the county's first sustainability coordinator to promote our work for green energy, combat climate change, and protect the environment. We've since set a goal of renewable energy for Baltimore County to be at 100% by 2026. And to reach that goal, we're going to keep innovating and building on our ongoing work, like installing solar panels at our capped landfills, which is expected to generate the equivalent of 35% of all electricity demand of our county's buildings and facilities. We're also doing things like converting methane gas to renewable energy at our Eastern Sanitary Landfill. On electric vehicles, we're hard at work there, including a partnership with BGE to install charging stations. And I also issued an executive order that requires that all new and replacement vehicles that are transport vehicles need to be electric or hybrid when we purchase them. Parks and open space are another critical component of creating a more sustainable county. Proud that this year's budget provides a record $75 million of state and local funds for new parks and open space. So thank you for your partnership there. This investment has us budgeting more for parks this year than the past 6 years combined, with new acquisitions in every corner of Baltimore County. This part I'm really excited about, right? So you guys know I'm a former teacher, I'm a former student of BCPS, and I'm now the proud parent of a BCPS kindergartner. So education is a passion of mine. It's also one of my top priorities as county executive. And I remain committed to working with you all to do all that we can to give every student and family with high quality schools across our great county in every zip code. And so as we plan for our county's future and the future of our children, we have an obligation to give them the resources they need to thrive. And again, I'm proud this is a budget this year that we're currently operating in that includes the single largest dollar increase over MOE in Baltimore County's history, putting forward an additional $40 million above MOE in general funds. In doing so, we saved 122 teaching positions from being cut due to declining enrollment. We fully funded step increases for BCPS staff, on top of a well-deserved 2% mid-year cost of living adjustment, on top of funding the extra 15 minutes for schoolhouse staff. You know, our educators and our support staff have dedicated their lives to education, and they have done great work, especially amid this pandemic, and we are proud to support them and pay them what they deserve. Back in November, we also responded to a nationwide school bus driver shortage. Working with BCPS, we leveraged ARP funding to pay for school bus driver raises, and we eliminated pre-employment barriers like the cost of physical exams. In the budget ahead, we look forward to continuing our work with BCPS to continue raising pay so that we can give all of our workers what they deserve and fill the hundreds of essential positions that currently remain vacant. On the school construction side, I started my career as a teacher in a trailer, and I know firsthand how important it is to provide quality learning environments. I think we're Oh, there we are, man, you good. I believe every student, every educator, and every community in Baltimore County deserves secure, safe, and supportive schools. Everyone. That's why, since taking office, we put forward hundreds of millions of dollars locally to finish the Schools for Our Future program, improve our facilities, and ensure that every school in Baltimore County has air conditioning. Now, moving forward, we're also laying the groundwork to begin addressing our high school needs. Because over the past several years, I've toured all of Baltimore County, and I've seen that incredible need: overcrowding, brown drinking water, and schools that are literally crumbling into the ground. Unfortunately, in the years past, Baltimore County hasn't invested enough to meet these needs of our schools. And as a former teacher, I know we have to do better. So over the last 2 years, we began an extensive planning process to develop a long-term plan for school construction. Through community input and public surveys with over 22,000 responses, we worked with our residents to identify our priorities and develop a long-term plan. Based on community input, we prioritize ensuring that every child has a seat inside a school building and that our school facilities are adequate to meet modern learning demands. In surveys and meetings, the community overwhelmingly asked that our needs be addressed within a 15-year window and that we do so equitably, not pitting one community against another. As we led that engagement effort, we also worked with independent experts to assess and rank every single school according to both facility condition, capacity needs, and the school's ability to meet those learning needs of our students. As I'm sure you all are well aware, the culmination of those efforts was the multi-year improvement plan for all schools, or My IPASS. It's a long-term roadmap for our schools and the first of its kind in Baltimore County. The plan represents $2.5 billion of investment over the next 15 years. And the plan is both transformational in terms of investment and its impact. It ensures that every single school receives some meaningful capital investment over the next 15 years, scaled to need. And it's fully funded currently with existing funding mechanisms. Some highlights worth sharing. My IPASS provides a place for every student within a school building, ending the practice of having our children in trailers within a decade. It funds renovations at some level at every school across Baltimore County. In addition, it makes CTE a priority with investments across Baltimore County, as well as creating a new CTE center in Western Baltimore County. Our plan makes significant investments in STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And it also includes significant funds for community schools and our special and alternative schools. My IPASS is and should be the foundation of our school construction planning. However, while My IPASS provides us with a solid baseline, it is based solely on existing funding. The recommendations were scaled to meet our budget, and we know that we have to go further to fully meet our needs, because we do have tremendous needs, not just here, but in every corner of our county. With additional state and local investment, we plan to raise the bar for renovations at all of our older schools. We plan to build classrooms that accommodate the 3,000 more young learners who will be in our pre-K programs across Baltimore County through the blueprint. We plan to enhance security across Baltimore County, and we plan to invest in a furniture refresh in schools across Baltimore County. Our system is the third oldest and third largest school stock in the state. That's why we were so grateful and excited to work with you to push for the passage of the Built to Learn Act, which is transformative in its investment in our schools. And it's why we committed that record funding to complete the County Schools for Our Future program and sustain future investments. And again, according to the analysis by an independent third-party expert, we could actually be spending up to billions more on school construction. Annually, our school budget includes a $100 million commitment every year, in addition to any local PAYGO funding, and on average, a little over $40 million a year from the state, from the CIP program. The Built to Learn Act adds, on average, about another $40 million a year for 10 years for a $400 million total. And again, this funding has been and continues to be transformative for the schools that have received and that are set to receive improvements. But we're asking that this level of state funding and partnership be sustained so that we can elevate our standards for all of our students in every school across our county. The Built to Learn Act gets Maryland and Baltimore County closer to a 50-50 match. But in pushing to raise the bar for all of our students, we're hoping this investment can be more than a one-time infusion. our goal is to see the state sustain this level of investment into the future. We've shared our desires for more state partnership with state leaders, including the Speaker, including Governor Hogan and Senate President Ferguson. Recently, Governor Hogan announced that he would make additional funding available, and I'm thankful for any and all additional funds we do receive from that announcement. We look forward to working with you all to learn more about the details of this funding and do whatever we can to sustain increased funding and partnership over the years. It's our hope that in working with all of you, we can and will obtain up to $800 million of additional investment for these schools over the next several years. So in closing, I just want to say I look forward to continuing our partnership and hearing your thoughts on the future of the county. You all are valued partners in our work in building a better Baltimore County, and I just want to thank you all for the work that you do for our residents. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions members have.
Thank you, sir, for the updates and the presentation. Questions for the county executive, and I will go as I see hands. You can look. Delegate Cardin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation, County Executive. I appreciate, as usual, you go into a lot of details, so I applaud you for that. Thanks for being so transparent with us. My question has to do with, there's been a lot of talk, and you may have seen a Washington Post opinion piece by Mr. Francho that we should have vaccine passports statewide. Have you considered this, and what are your thoughts on that topic for Baltimore County?
It's not something we're considering. I mean, I don't, I don't know. There's much more to it.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate your clarity on it.
Thank you, Delegate.
Delegate Mangione.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as Delegate Cardin said, I appreciate the in-depth analysis of everything going on in the county. Just a quick question. I know this is pretty much right down the street from your headquarters here. I was with a Towson University student, and I'm an alumni. I love Towson University. But we've had some, obviously, a little bit of uptick over there with some of the some violent crime. And I just want to kind of see, I know I read in the paper, an ABC Baltimore piece that the university is investing some money with the county to add more security. And obviously Towson's a huge, huge state investment as well. So is there any plan that the county police is working on, or anything you guys are discussing to make sure? I mean, we have 25,000 students or so, and obviously the safety of the surrounding community and all of Baltimore County, but I'm very interested in Towson University after talking to some students recently.
Yeah, thanks, Delegate. And obviously there were a couple of high-profile incidents. We talked regularly, both myself and Chief Hyatt talked with President Schatzel. And immediately following the incident, we partnered with Towson to accept that grant to step up additional patrols and presence. In addition, at the complex where the most recent incident occurred, it's my understanding that they're also planning to step up security and have some checking in processes that they're looking at for their guests. So anytime there's an incident that we, especially off campus where we do patrol, Chief Hyatt is very engaged in those conversations and pushing the university to make sure all of the relevant procedures are in place to prevent that from happening again. The incident that happened on the college campus, actually, what's interesting is, so we only, according to our MOU, on anything with Towson's campus specifically, the Baltimore County Police Department, under the existing MOU, only come onto campus when called in by the Towson University Police. So the campus proper is actually patrolled by Towson University police officers. So any sort of questions related to the campus proper is probably best directed there. Anytime there's a response, we obviously come in, but was excited and happy to see that both the university president and the chief engaged quickly on the Alta building situation to change the practices there immediately in response.
I do appreciate that, and yeah, I'm glad to hear the business. I mean, that is a beautiful investment over there with all the Towson Road project and everything. And it's sad to hear it, but I hope, the collaborative effort obviously works out there, because it's sad to see that my former alma mater there. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. And I would just say, you can, I mentioned the dashboard earlier. You can actually go in by precinct, by zip code, and sort of like, if you want to sort of see the numbers generally beyond just the university, you can really drive in. And it sort of speaks to trying to be transparent about what's happening out there.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank
Delegate.
Thank you. Delegate Cardin.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. County Executive, for a very comprehensive report. Two quick things. First of all, one of the things that I get a lot are small businesses, solo practitioner type businesses that are looking for some additional assistance from the county to help get them off the ground. And I know that you've expanded over COVID, but this is just generally speaking. I just wanted to suggest or find out kind of, oftentimes it takes 2 or 3 phone calls that we eventually get them set up, but it takes a long time for them to figure out how to navigate through sort of economic development. And maybe it's just something to think about is how we improve that, because I know that the county really does want to help these guys, and it's just hard for them to figure out how to do it. That's number one. Number two is I really applaud your efforts on your environmental movement and trying to create a sustainable county. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing to ensure agricultural preservation and some of the issues that we deal with people wanting development because for the short term, but then in the long term realize that maybe it's counterproductive?
Yeah, thanks, Delegate. I'll start with the ag preservation question and then try to address the economic development piece. We actually have been scaling up our investment in ag preservation. When I came into office, I think the bonding referenda was about $1 million a year. And as I was campaigning, I heard the need for more open space and ag preservation. That's why we put forward pretty significant resources on both fronts. I believe the referenda is going to be at either the $4 or $6 million level this year. But wherever we are, in addition to PAYGO dollars for ag preservation, we're hearing from both our internal folks as well as sort of our North County partners that we have sufficient funding to sort of be acquiring all the available properties at this point. We're hopeful that by scaling up and doing more, that we'll not only continue at that pace, but hit our goal of ag preservation across the county. So we are committed to that, and we're scaling up our referenda numbers over the next several years, as well as we've added some PAYGO dollars to sort of bridge any gaps that have been out there. On the question of economic development, obviously we're committed. We expanded our small business resource center. We actually moved those resources to the Armory. Speaking of partnership, Delegate Mangione mentioned Towson University. We actually moved those resources out of the county building and into that new Armory so that we're more embedded in the community and partnering. But clearly, if there are gaps or we need more resources, I would say either through the Recovery Act for a period of time and or through our upcoming budget process, we would welcome sort of any feedback on how we can do and be better to help people get through the system. And speaking of budget, we had our first of 7 town halls with Councilman Patoka last week. We have our District 3 town hall coming up next week. And then, as you all or your residents have questions or needs or, areas that you're looking for investment, I would encourage them or you to come out and share that. Of course, Joel can make sure that you guys have those dates if you don't already have them. They're also online, but thank you for the question and the feedback.
Delegate Schillinger.
Thank you. Good morning, County Executive. Thanks for being with us.
Sure.
Crime is the #1 topic that people in my district are worried about, and this isn't new. We had a town hall with David Marks probably 5 years ago at a local church, and we were told crime is going down. And we keep hearing crime is going down, but that's not what we're seeing. So I know that dashboard, I don't know if I'm using the right dashboard. When we've asked you guys to update, it gets updated, but it hasn't always been updated. And if you can send us the link, I looked through our documentation. I didn't see your PowerPoint, but it'd be great for all of us to actually have that and share it with our constituents. So I know the homicide rate has not gone down. That's increased significantly. And so I wonder if you could comment on that. And then next, I hear that we're 200 officers short. I don't know if that's true. I'd like to know, are we short? How many officers short? And then what are you all doing to recruit and retain? Because retention is a huge problem. You know, we want to keep our senior police officers on the force because all the obvious reasons. And, you know, so what are you doing for that? And the other thing, lastly, would be the other rumor, which I'd love rumor control, is that the Melissa Hyatt returned money to the county budget. Is that true? So, you know, crime, police officer shortage, what you're doing to retain and recruit, and then the budget issue. Thank you.
Sure, I will try to get through all of that.
Sorry.
Appreciate the question. I mean, as many of you know, it's actually very personal for me. Before I was elected county executive, my brother has been an officer in Baltimore County for longer than I've been county executive, and I'm very proud of the work that he and others are doing out there. You know, on the funding issue, what I can say unequivocally is that we have consistently increased funding and resources to the police department, and I have never asked Chief Hyatt for her to return funding. In fact, I've always sort of been at the table to say, what else do you need to be successful? And I know she's going to be. I believe, Mr. Chairman, she's coming to give a separate briefing, an update, so she can really get into some of the real granular details of the budget. The exact shortage, there are shortages here just as there are everywhere. We are trying to actively tackle those issues. We already offer some of the most competitive salaries in the region, in the state. Obviously that's one issue. We are looking at other benefits. So for example, we're negotiating with President Dave Folderauer of the FOP. We're looking at reinstituting a drop program for our police and fire officers. So also with President Sabiga on the fire side, as sort of a longer term retention strategy. We recently announced that we're doing a hiring bonus, $10,000 hiring bonus for police officers, similar to a retention and hiring bonus that we're doing, $5,000 and $5,000 on the corrections side. But public safety and you know, first responders across the country are seeing these shortages and challenges. But I assure you that we have raised investments and will continue to do whatever it takes to support that work. We're investing in the stand up and build out of a real-time event center so that we can sort of take that use of data and information to the next level in deployment and supporting our officers. We are investing in the places that they work. There are millions of dollars, for example, for a new Wilkins police precinct in our budget that's already there. We're just trying to finalize a land location so we can move forward. We're looking at investing in other stations across the county. We're exploring the possibility of a take-home car program for officers who live in the county. So we will continue to do whatever we can to support that.
So do you know if any funds were returned from or unspent money from the police budget?
I'm not aware offhand, but we can certainly follow up and get you that information.
Okay, and the actual number of, I guess I can ask Chief Hyatt.
We can get that in advance of her coming, and/or she can talk about it when she does her briefing.
Okay.
We're also looking at our lateral program to try to attract officers from other jurisdictions. So we're really looking at all issues to try to make sure that we're fully staffed out and addressing the needs of our communities.
Okay, and the crime issues, you know, that stats would be great because for 5 years, I've been told the crime's going down, and I know it's not. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I look, I think you can sort of pick a category, and you can say homicides are up and violent crime is down, and both things were true, right? So what I can tell you is it's a challenge that every mayor, every county executive, every governor is facing. But what I can tell you is that we don't accept any homicide in Baltimore County. Every homicide is one too many. But if you commit a crime in Baltimore County, we're going to find you, we're going to arrest you, and we're going to prosecute you if you are committing those heinous crimes. I mentioned our clearance rate is well over 80%. It's among the best, and certainly much higher than the national average. And and I think it's important we also keep things in perspective too, that even as we sort of are concerned about the rise in what's happened in homicides, remembering that a lot of it is behavioral health and mental health, which is why we're going to do things through ARP, like have domestic violence supports and behavioral health supports on the streets, but also investing in the protections of our residents for the upstream stuff, the rec and parks, but also investing in our police department. So, and if you compare Baltimore County to Maryland's average, to a red rural state like Alaska, or a blue, more urban state like Delaware, our numbers are still far better than theirs. I don't accept that as good enough, but I also just want to make sure that we're keeping things in perspective. We're going to always keep trying to do more, and we want to do that with you. So, and we welcome the additional resources in the budget that they're there this year too. So thanks, Delegate.
And just wanted to confirm that since the beginning of the legislative session, we've been actively working with the chief to get her in to speak with us. We asked what you all wanted to hear and who you wanted to hear from, and public safety was one. So we've been working to schedule with her office. So we'll ask some more questions when she presents to us. I see Delegate Brooks.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Mr. Saeed, for your detailed PowerPoint presentation. Hey, on one of the deck slides, you talked about restarting Baltimore County's glass recycling program. It's good. And then the next one was you set renewable energy goals of 100% by 2026.
Mm-hmm.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Vice Chair. Appreciate the question. So in addition to having bulk trash stop 3 decades ago, more recently, Baltimore County, I think it was 2013 was the year, stopped doing glass recycling entirely. And it was sort of quietly done. Folks didn't really know about it. And so when we were made aware of that practice, we opted to reinstitute it because it didn't make sense to be collecting glass as part of our recycling program and then throw it in our landfills. It was sort of a short-sighted decision. It turns out it costs us about $100,000 a year, not because we can't recycle it, but it was the transportation costs. So it's about a break even, but when you compare that to the cost of landfilling glass, we're actually saving more money by doing it. On the renewable energy side, when we came into office, I inherited an executive order that said that we had a 20% renewable energy goal, that we would generate 20% of the county's energy use at all of our buildings and sort of installations at the 20% level by 2022. When I came into office, I think we were at exactly 0%. So we quickly took action to do so we had a closed landfill where we put the solar panels up. That's generating the equivalent of 35% of our energy in a renewable fashion. And we started capturing methane that was otherwise just being released into the atmosphere at Eastern Sanitary. So instead of just having that terrible impact on the environment, we said, let's cap it, capture it, convert it into energy. And that's another sort of innovative thing that we're doing. Moving forward, we're looking for more opportunities, more rooftop solar, more community solar, looking at brick pack and other ways to do PPE, power purchase agreements, to sort of make sure we're getting there. But we're committed to be at 100% of all of our use by the next end of all of our next term, when we're all still serving.
Okay, well, great. All right, thanks, Mr. C.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Ruth.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. County Executive, for being here and for providing all this information and for all the good work that you're doing in the county. Just a quick question to follow up sort of on the presentation and also on Delegate Brooks's question. As a part of this renewable energy goal, as you expand the circulator program, will we be looking to purchase zero emission buses?
So we are looking, especially with all the infrastructure funding. Delegate Ruth, thank you for the question and for all your support. We are looking at electrifying not just our car fleet in Baltimore County, but also we're trying to look at our buses moving forward on circulators and microtransit, and also trying to talk to the school system about moving towards more electric buses. And I think we'll have some resources flowing from the federal government, from some of their legislation. I know the state's always looking at that, and obviously the local government has a role to play. On the circulator, we had a federal grant that required us to have the buses in time. And so our challenge there was we had to spend the money in order to get the program up, to actually get the money. And it was sort of a catch-22 where the electric buses were so far backed up that we would have not had them in time in order to roll out the program. I'm happy to have Director or Jen Aosa, who's our sustainability manager, talk about some of the work she's doing in that space, as well as Director DeAndrea Walker in DPWT. But yeah, we are absolutely looking to do electrification across the fleet, and wasn't the preference, but we were sort of it was, if you wanted the federal money, these are the only buses you're going to get in time.
I understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. County Executive. Thank you for your great presentation. Thanks for all your work on sustainability, and in addition to recycling and renewable energy. I've heard from constituents who have gotten the notices about the bulk trash pickup, and they're very happy for that resumption. I just wanted to ask you about the planning for Master Plan 2030. I know that Director Lafferty is leading that process. Maybe, I know it's very early in that process. Maybe could you give us a report as to the process that's underway?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say, I think it's been a little slower than we'd like, not just because of the pandemic, but we're trying to be, and our good friend and former colleague in the legislature, now Director Lafferty, I think is doing good work, because we're really trying to make sure that communities are meaningfully engaged in what that process looks like. I think in years prior and in master plans prior, there was a lot of internal work in producing a document, but I think what we want is to make sure that this is a living document that we're actually going to follow, and will actually be sort of the basis for the county's vision and path forward the next 10 years. And so I know that those community meetings are actively happening. I know that staff is sort of preparing some of the reviews. I don't have all of the exact details about what the timeline is, but I'm happy to have Joel follow up with Director Lafferty to, again, if there's interest on a presentation or just to have the information forwarded, we're happy to do that for you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Delegate Bendari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We know our county has been highly benefited from your leadership, passion, dedication, tenacity, and forward thinking on so many areas, addressing solid waste, expanded transit to sustainability. And I have a question regarding parks and open space. It's wonderful to hear that we are spending the record spending 75 million in state and local fund. What I realize when I walk in our parks, I see a lot of soil erosion. It is a concern not only for its impact on plant growth, but also for its impact to water quality. Are we thinking to preserve that soil erosion prevention program and spend some of the money? And when I like when there are like stream, and along the stream, I see a lot of tree falling down. Mm-hmm. So do you want to address to that?
Yeah, thanks, Delegate. I will tell you, without knowing a specific park or location, we really do try to take a holistic approach when we go in and make investments in our parks, in our open space. And so we include not just rec and parks, but Director Dave Likens from our Department of Environment and Protection, the Department of Environmental Protection and Sustainability, as well as people like Jen Aosa, our sustainability coordinator, are very much in those conversations with Director Johnson. Obviously, that is another expense that we should be bearing, but if there are specific locations that you're of concern, please let me know. I do just want to take a moment and recognize our speaker, because Speaker Jones last session really, I think, was a driving force behind acknowledging the opportunity to invest more in parks, open space, and I believe also there was a massive playground investment program. And I have to say, like, seeing these things get turned over is really been transformative. And Madam Speaker, you and this delegation and the House and Senate have been great partners, especially in this space. So it's a timely and appropriate question to recognize her leadership and your all's leadership in getting it done, because there's been a lot of, not just schools, our parks have been underinvested. You can look at any number of our parks and they could really use some sprucing up, and we have areas of growth where we need new investments and new parks. But we're moving forward, we're making things happen, whether it's the a partnership with the Ravens at Northwest Park. We're going to have a destination playground, sort of Ravens and football themed, to replacing park benches and playgrounds. It's a really exciting time. We always can do more. There's a backlog that's tens of millions of dollars more, but locally and in partnership with you, to the extent there are resources, we'll keep doing more.
Thank you.
Last question, Delegate Offberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Funny that you mentioned parks, because I just want to say that one of the big assets in the southwest part of Baltimore County, even running up along, is Patuxent. And even though it's a state park, I've appreciated the county's willingness to participate in ways they can to improve the park. We have Delegate Young and I are working on a project, and you guys have been willing to say that you would step up and help up with the parts of that the county can. So good. Also, I have a rug, 2 rugs, and an old stereo cabinet sitting out on my curb right now. I'm waiting for the truck to come by. Very exciting for me. I have a question for you, believe it or not. We laid out a lot of accolades for things that places and positions you've held. Weren't you once a member of the Baltimore County Board of Education?
That is also true. Student member, 1999 2000.
Thank you. Just want to remind you of that important role that you had.
It was a very important role.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That was fair enough. Got it. Thank you, Delegate. Mr. County Executive, thanks again for presenting to us. One, the work that we do down here is only enhanced by your willingness to leverage partnerships and relationship with the legislature to enhance the lives of our constituents as well as the citizens of Baltimore County. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, Madam Speaker, delegation members. I really feel like I've got the best delegation in the state. So thank you for all that you do.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care.
All right, everybody. We will get to bill hearings. We have 3 today. And we'll go in the order that we have listed on the agenda. HB 302, Baltimore County Property Tax Credit for Homeowners who suffered a hardship, sponsored by Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, and delegation members, and thanks for the opportunity to present about HB 302. This bill would authorize Baltimore County to set up a hardship exception under the Homeowners Property Tax Credit Program. Under this program, if a homeowner earns less than $60,000 per year, they can get credits against their property tax bill each year. This past year, I heard from 2 members of Baltimore County's Property Tax Assessment Appeals Board about homeowners who have endured significant hardship but are denied the tax credit because their gross income went over $60,000. In some of these situations, the homeowner had to withdraw money from an IRA or 401k to pay for their medical expenses or those of a family member, only to realize later that these funds that they withdrew for these expenses counted toward their gross income and made them ineligible for the homeowner credit. Most of the affected homeowners are senior citizens. So this bill would authorize Baltimore County to set up a hardship exception for a homeowner whose income goes above $60,000. If a homeowner suffers a hardship such as an illness, accident, or property casualty event, and payment of costs push them over $60,000 in income, the property tax credit could be granted. The homeowner would have to document the hardship and the related expenses. Now, again, this bill is just authorizing. The program would have to be approved by the county council, which would then establish the parameters for the hardship exception. I want to thank the county executive for supporting this legislation. And the 2 individuals who will be presenting, Billy Chase and Karen Hoffberger, are the members or former members of the Property Tax Assessment Appeals Board who can talk about specific situations they know of. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate. So we'll go ahead and have your panel speak and we can open it up for questions. Mr. William Chase, we see you have you there. Go ahead when you're ready.
I've been the chairman of the Board of Appeals for Assessment and Taxation it's going on my 10th year. I've done these hearings for 10 years where these people come in to our hearing because they were denied their property privilege based on their income, but they had no understanding, and they would come in front of me, and the person from the state would be representing the state, explaining why they were denied. And that was the hearing. I mean, we just sat there as observers because we have no control, no rules to allow us to do anything at this hearing other than what the state says. So here comes these people once a month. We have about 40 cases scheduled. They come about I would say about 5% of them show up at the hearing because 5% were denied. And then when they learn why they were denied, they go back and they figured out, even with their problems, they can't get it. And we can't adjust it because we have no power to do so. So you're making people come to a hearing where the people who are listening to it can't give them any relief. So Karen and I were looking into this, and we found that there are people, most of these people are retired, and they've all of a sudden, they've been getting these tax credits for 10, 15 years. Now they're retired. They go in and get their 401k, they put it into their income, and they don't realize that is considered gross income. Now they have come there and they're retired, and they find out they have medical bills that their insurance isn't covering, or they have housing conditions that they can't improve the house that they're living in, or they might have to sell their house. They have children who for some reason have some disabilities that they can't help them with their savings that they've had to help their family, because we have no leeway to do anything for them. And I'm embarrassed when I do these hearings, because people sit there and they say, well, what can you do for us? And I said, I can't do anything for you. The state has a policy. You didn't meet the policy, therefore you're denied. And then why am I here? I said, well, you have an appeal right, but where's my appeal? I said, you don't have an appeal. There's nothing to appeal because you're wrong, because that's what the state policy is. So we're trying to put something in, and you're not talking about a high percentage of people. You're talking about maybe 5% of the people that apply for home credit tax relief who have these problems. It's not like someone's going to go, oh my God, the state or the county is going to lose all this tax revenue by giving these people discounts. That's not happening. We're just trying to be able to help seniors, help people with hardship problems, that they can at least qualify for some type of relief. And that's why we asked this bill to be put in. And Dana's, thank God, this is our second year working on this, so he's kept going with it. And we've got great response from the county executive. We got response from AARP, backing it 100%. So we just feel it's time to put some legislation in to help people rather than harm people who have these type of hardships. And that's why we asked ask for your support on this. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chief. Excellent. I'll pass it to Ms. Offberger, and sorry I didn't mention it before. Witnesses have 3 minutes, and I keep the timer on. So, but you came right in there, sir.
I figured that.
Ms.
That's why I'm
Offberger.
chairman of the board. I know how long. I have 15 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, thank you, Delegate Stein, for sticking with us on this. We are so grateful the county executives behind us now and AARP. I recently came off the board, but that doesn't mean I don't have a feeling, having worked on all sides of legislation. And I think what we want to say is it's a good law. It's worked for a long time. What this needs is a little tweak. And what we're saying is that if you have, whether you're commercial or residential, and you have property tax assessment differences, and the assessor says, no, you don't get any further relief, they can come. The second step is to come to the appeals board, and maybe we can say, okay, you've showed us more evidence. You can have some extra assessment relief. But in this case, the law does not give us any wiggle room. And therefore, we have to sit there and listen to their horrible stories about how they've, basically these are the people, whether they're seniors, and they are mostly seniors or not, they have paid their taxes. They have worked their whole lives. They have always had a roof over their head. They bought the home. They've lived in it for 40 years. And suddenly they take it out because the wife has cancer. And of course, what those medical bills are. And even though there's Medicare and whatever, it still doesn't cover the whole thing. So they say, oh, I have my IRA. I'll take that out. And they put it directly to all the bills. And then the state says, well, according to the law, that's income. And they say, well, but all I did was pay the medical bills. So we don't have any relief, and we need to give them relief. It's only fair. And that's what we're asking. We brought it last year. Overall, the Ways and Means Committee said, well, maybe just Baltimore County. And we said, you know what? We'll start with Baltimore County, because at the very least, the Baltimore County citizens need this relief. And that's what's happened, is it's unintended consequences. And it's a very easy fix that we think we're bringing to your attention. And we ask every time they come to us and they're in tears, we say to them, go talk to your legislators. By then, they're so devastated and so disappointed in the state and the county in not supporting them. They don't come to you all. You didn't know until we brought this up. So please, we ask for a favorable decision on your part, and we hope to get somewhere this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Offberger. Questions for the sponsor and the panel? Delegate Cardin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chase and Ms. Offberger, for coming in. You guys, it's great to see you two. And it's been too long that we haven't seen each other in person. My question, first of all, this is wonderful. This is such a wonderful idea, and I appreciate it. If in fact we pass this and it then needs to go to the county council, and then it needs to be, then the regulations or the rules need to be established, it could take some time. Will there be an opportunity, or will you be able to recommend to people that come in between now and then, if we should pass this, to be able to postpone their appeals so they may be able to get relief if there's like a 4-month or 5-month gap or something like that? I'm just wondering how that would work.
I think we would have to work that out with the state, because the state gets the first application. And their staff reviews the applications and make the decision. Once this bill is passed, then the state knows that they have to take the Baltimore County applications and put them in a separate pile and give them a separate stating that, well, this is what the laws we're going to hold. That's going to have to be the state's administration, how they're going to hold the Baltimore County appeals. We don't have any, it doesn't come through the Baltimore County Department of Assessment Taxation. It goes right to the state, these applications.
So Dana, if we should pass this bill, maybe we could set up a meeting with SDAT and make sure that they understand what's happening.
Sure. Good
That's
idea.
a great idea, because in other cases with other regular assessments, they can say, well, we'll give you a credit, further credit when this all comes into being. But you're right, that has to be a state conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Feldmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for this bill. And I certainly appreciate, the need to help folks who are facing a specific hardship. I guess I want to clarify, is this intended to be directed to folks who already qualify or have previously qualified for the homeowner's property tax credit, and because of this additional withdrawal or response to the hardship, then that in a given year puts them over the cap? Or is this sort of looking to expand to folks who may be qualifying for the first time when they face a hardship?
Maybe Billy and Karen, I can start and then feel free to add to what I'm saying. This wouldn't say that this bill doesn't say one way or the other, whether someone has to have already qualified. The parameters of this hardship program would be established by the county council. So the council, could determine that it's only for individuals who previously qualified or not. It really would be up to them.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it also kickstarts when they make the application. It's not like whoever makes the application, that's when the state says you're qualified or you're not qualified. So that's where it gets kickstarted.
Well, but Delegate, you do have a good point. And I think when and hopefully we get to the county council, we need to make that very clear, because we have had people come and say, well, wait a minute, I did get the tax credit last year and the year before. And then we have to explain how the IRA that you took that money from to put towards your unfortunate nursing care situation or whatever. And then you're right. So it goes either way, and we need to clarify that with the county council. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, folks. Delegate Brooks.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Delegate. I think it's a great bill. Quick question. Has that gross income, the $60,000 gross income ceiling, has it ever been indexed, for inflation or anything? Because as long as I can remember, that's what it's been.
That's where it stands. They haven't changed anything. This has been sitting there. I mean, like I said, I've been on the board for 10 years. And it's been 60,000 for 10 years, as long as I've been there. And there has been no adjustments, no talking about it. Just word is, that's your gross income. This is your property tax. Your property tax is above this amount, therefore you're not qualified. That's the system. So, and like I said before, these people come in front of us to people that are looking for relief, and we're just sitting there with our hands tied. We can't do anything.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Welcome. Further questions for the panel or the sponsor? Seeing none, thank you very much. Thank you folks for participating.
Thank you.
And look forward to working on the bill.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it.
Next, we have HB 332, Baltimore County Property Tax, Homeowners Property Tax Credit, sponsor Delegate Long. Sir, when you're ready.
Thank you. I have to apologize in advance. I'm having computer problems, so I'm working from my phone. So hopefully it's working well. For the record, Delegate Bob Long, I'm here to testify on HB 332. This is a bill we've had in for the last, since 2015, talking about supplements and helping out our seniors and people that are on fixed incomes. This would actually address what the last speaker had asked about the raising of any of the rates as far as income. The homeowner's tax credit has not raised the limits since 2006. And given what's happening with inflation, with our property taxes, real estate values going up, and increase in inflation of 7% plus sales tax, I mean, it's just goes on and on. This is a very timely bill. I want to take my hat off to Delegate Stein for bringing that bill also, because it does open up a lot of questions that we need to answer. I get a lot of phone calls from homeowners that are on fixed incomes, and because of circumstances, they have to have a relative move in with them because they lost their homes or whatever, and their income is actually added into their gross income. So a lot of times people are eligible, and like they said, they're talking about taking IRAs. If you have someone else move in, even though they're not paying rent, their income still counted. And that's I really appreciate Delegate Stein, but on top of that, we do need to raise this to 72,000, which I think is a very modest increase in the credit, given that we've had this bill in since 2015, and we well know that the dollar in 2006 is not nowhere near the dollar it is today. And we want to make sure our homeowners can stay in their properties. We don't want to see people have to make a decision of paying their property taxes or buying medication. This is and this targets people with low income, fixed incomes. And, it basically, if they have a lot more money coming in, then they're no longer eligible, but this is targeted towards the lower, people on fixed incomes. Also raises the limit of how much their gross net worth is. And, I would ask for a favorable vote on this. And I want to thank everyone for their time. Hopefully my camera and my phone is working correct.
Came in loud and clear and see just fine. Delegate.
Thank you.
Any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none. Thank you. We can move on to your next one. HB 333, Baltimore County Sewer Service Charge Adjustments. And when you're ready, Delegate.
Thank you. For the record, Delegate Bob Long, I'm here on HB 333, Baltimore County Sewer Service Charge Adjustment. In Baltimore City, if you have a leak and you can ask for a waiver of water bills, and you have to send in a receipt where you had repairs or whatever. They adjust the water bill one time a year, and they also adjust the sewer, I believe. And I know that if you're a city resident, if you're a county resident, they'll do the same thing. If you have a water leak and a plumbing problem and you have it repaired, as long as you ask the city and show them a receipt, I believe one time a year they allow it, that they'll adjust that water bill. And I would like to see the county do the same thing. Just the sewer service charge. Our charges keep going up each year. I think last time I looked, it went up 8%. And, again, with inflation and just the way things are going on, people are struggling from paycheck to paycheck, and whatever we can do to help them out. And sometimes, we get water leaks that we're not aware of. Just for instance, I managed some real estate property, and there was a toilet leak in it, no one knew. And we didn't find out until after we got the water bill. I mean, it tripled or almost quadrupled. It was amazing. But the city was gracious enough to give us a one-time adjustment on it, the homeowner. So that's what this bill is all about. I would appreciate a favorable vote. Thank you. Hopefully my phone's still working.
Just fine, Delegate. Questions? Delegate Cardin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Delegate Long, for bringing the bill. Just trying to understand. So you have a leak in your house. You waste city, state resources, county resources, and the city is willing to give people one-time credit against it. And you think the county should give the one-time credit against it if you repair the leak after you've already wasted the resources. Is that the way it works?
Well, Delegate, thank you for the question. The first thing that you said was wasted. People don't waste
right. Okay,
water.
Fair enough. I'm saying that because if in fact the water if there's a leak and the water goes out, it wasn't used in any way that was productive to the individual who was expending it, which by definition would be waste. I didn't mean it in a pejorative way. I meant it in like unfortunately the water was not used in a productive way, right? Okay, so that water is a valuable resource, and we have major water resource issues all the time. And so so in other words, the taxpayers should be paying because you had a leak. And do you have to prove that the leak was an accident versus it was your negligence? I mean, it would seem to me that the taxpayers would be paying for somebody, even if they were negligent about not upkeeping their plumbing. I just want to make sure. I mean, there needs to be some safeguards, don't you think, on this if we're going to do something like this?
Absolutely, I agree with you. Our water resources is very precious, and I understand. We don't want to burden the taxpayers with any more. But in order to get the waiver of a one-time water bill, you have to present a plumbing repair. We have plumbing repair. A toilet's leaking. You could have a pipe outside of your house leaking that you don't know about. There's all kinds of different leakages that you can have in a house. I mean, some things are obvious. If you have a faucet that's running, okay, yeah, that's negligent on part of the homeowner. They should get it fixed as quickly as possible. We're talking about homeowners that have things happening with their water in their house, and they have no idea what's going on. So they go to the city, they present this bill from a plumber or whoever makes a repair, and they have that right. They can appeal it, and they will give them a one-time, once-a-year credit. One of the things that even makes this even more prevalent, given the way that we receive our tax bills, our water bills, we have a lot of times we don't know we have a water leak for maybe 4 or 5 months, because they're getting a little better. The water bills are getting better, but at one time we weren't getting water bills for 3, 4, 5 months. And the only way you could detect that would be from a water bill that was, enormous. And again, I agree with you. I don't want to. This is only for people that come into problems with, water leaks, such as a toilet leaking, and you not knowing it. It's kind of hard if you don't know what you're doing. I mean, as a homeowner, I know, because I'm a builder, I have built, but a lot of people don't know that a toilet running can use a lot of water. And, you know, we're talking maybe a flapper or something that costs us $10 to fix it, but yet they got a $50 or $60 water bill. And on top of that, then the sewer service charge goes up. So that's why I was presenting this bill. Thank you. Thank you for your question, by the way.
Delegate Long,
Yes.
you put this bill in last year, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Did we have a position from the county on that?
You know what? I don't have it in front of me. I don't have a
That's okay.
record.
I'll talk with Joel. Joel will make sure we get it, just because, you know, obviously they submit testimony, so we'll find out from the county too where they stand on it. Just was curious. Thank you. Delegate Feldmar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a quick clarification question because I believe you said in your original presentation that this was a one-time credit. And then I thought I heard you say once a year. And maybe I misunderstood, but I wanted to clarify, is it one time or once a year?
The city has once a year, and I think that's reasonable. You know, given that the city has, you know, older houses, I think that's why it's once a year. And I think we should model the same thing here in the county, because we do have some older homes and toilets leak and people don't know about it. And they don't find out until they get their water bill. And then they're like, whoa, you know, here's our water bill. And, you know, it's outrageous. And they go to investigate and they find out that they got a toilet leaking, or they could have a pipe underground leaking. So, you know, it's just a way to help taxpayers out in a time that they're not wasting water, that it's an accident. So I think, you know, it's to help people out that are having problems, you know, like this, especially people on fixed incomes. Last thing they need to do is get a water bill. It's outrageous, 3 or 4 times as much as it is, and the city will give them an adjustment on it, but the county won't do anything with sewer charge. And anyway, yeah, it is once a year in the city. Thank you for that question.
Delegate Hill.
Thank you, Delegate Long. 2 questions, and I think maybe the second one is what the chairman was getting at. You made this legislation not enabling, so you didn't say that the county may, that you're giving. You said that they must, giving them no leeway at all to look at this and see if this is something you want to do. Is that your intention? Well,
if you want to adopt the bill, if it changes the whether it's a mandate or not, that's fine. I would just ask if we're going to do this, let's make sure it happens. If we have to change the language and let the county council vote on it, that's fine. I mean, I have no problem with that. I think that they would feel the same way that I do, that we can do better than what we're doing, because Baltimore City is outshining us right now.
And so if we were to pass the legislation that Delegate Stein put forth, that the kind of situations you're describing might count as a hardship situation and be covered on a case-by-case basis?
Yes, it would be a hardship, yes. Unlike Delegate Stein, his is for property taxes, for sewer service charge. Yes, it could be done on a case-by-case basis, and it could be once a year. I mean,
okay. And then my final question is, I wanted to be clear, this bill is exactly in the same posture as the one we considered last year, or you've made changes to it since we considered it last year?
No, it's the same bill as it was postured last year. I don't think it got out of committee. I can't remember. I mean, it's a year. It's been a long year, as we all know. It's been a long, long year. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Delegate Ebersol.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I punched that by accident. Thank you for recognizing me.
Oh, got it. No worries. Any further questions for Delegate Long? Seeing none.
Chairman, if I might,
Yes, sir.
One thing I want to make a difference, differentiate between the city and the county. The city, they pay their sewer service charge every month, where the state pays it at the end of the year. It's on your property taxes. So I think it would be a whole lot more easier to implement this because of the way we pay our sewer service charges. You know, if you look on your bill, It's how you pay it. It's the end of the year. It's not like the city. The city pays it with their water bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Seeing no further questions, that ends the bill hearings for today. If Barb's doing a great job of keeping track of bills that are specific to Baltimore County online, if you have not heard from her about your bill getting a hearing yet in front of us, please let us know that you have a county-specific bill. We want to make sure we're moving everything appropriately. So we're giving it due deference and time to look over it and have the county look over it too. So make sure you're telling us and letting us know which bills you want us to hear in front of the delegation. On top of that, thank you very much. That's all we have for today. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
All right, Mr. Chair.